Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's SIL-Asia webinar. If you need assistance, please use the chat window, and if you're having difficulties in configuring your connection, please log out from the session and rejoin again. You may also use your smartphones or tablets to join by using the webinar ID 448-701-051. Please be reminded that the microphones are muted throughout the meeting, and for comments, please use the chat box, and for questions, please use the questions box. The Q&A will be done after the lecture and will be facilitated by one of our experts at SIL-Asia, Ms. Pearl Gasman. Tonight's speaker is Dr. Alvin Marcelo. He is a general and trauma surgeon by training who is currently the executive director of the Asia eHealth Information Network and the managing director of the Standards and Interoperability Lab for Asia. Dr. Marcelo is certified in the governance of enterprise architecture, the Open Group Architecture Framework, and the Archimate and COVID-5 implementation. We will now pass the presenter controls to Dr. Alvin. Hello.
Thank you. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Thank you very much, Charisse and Pearl, for arranging this talk. I can see my chair, Dr. Punchay, on the participants list. Thank you very much for joining us, as well as some of my students at the master's program and at the College of Arts and Sciences. So I am now in Bhutan. I'm not sure if my signal is coming through very clearly, but I hope that after this call, we would be able to stimulate some of the AHIN members to collaborate and start to work together on some interoperability projects using the DURSA, or the Data Use and Reciprocal Support Agreement. This is not a comprehensive overview of the DURSA, but more of an introduction, just so the participants in the call will understand what it's all about. I do recommend that you go through the whole document yourself, because it is a legal document, and in some ways you might want to make sure that you understand the DURSA completely before signing it. Next slide, please. So some disclosures before I start. I am an associate professor of surgery and health informatics at the University of the Philippines, Manila. I'm also the Chief Medical Information Officer at St. Luke's Medical Center, Executive Director of the Asia eHealth Information Network, and Director of the Standards and Interoperability Lab Asia. Next slide, please. So for those who do not know yet what the AHIN is all about, the Asia eHealth Information Network was created by the World Health Organization way back in 2011 to support Asian countries with their national eHealth development. The members or the advocates work in Asia, but not necessarily are all Asians. We have a lot of participants and members from America and Europe. But they're all interested in promoting the better use of data for healthcare. We now have over 1,000 members, mostly from ministries of health, ministries of finance, ICT, social security agencies, health insurance agencies, the academe, non-government sector, including private organizations, and of course, our development partners. Next slide, please. The Standards and Interoperability Lab Asia, on the other hand, is an academic group based in the University of the Philippines, Manila. I'm the director of the lab right now, but we also have experts in the lab, namely Ms. Pearl Gasman, who is in this call, Mr. Philip Zuniga, Ms. Roseanne Sales Zuniga, Dr. Raymond Sarmiento, Dr. Randy Fernandez, Mr. Randy Fernandez, and Mr. Rua Den Dangawan. The thing that keeps us, the common thing amongst all of us is that we are all faculty members of the University of the Philippines. Some of us are from UP Manila, and the others are from UP Diliman. And SILA is actually a response of AHIN to the Measurement and Accountability for Health Call to Action 2015. There are links on my slide, so I will ask Charisse to share the slides with you later on, so you can link out from the slides and read the MA for Health Call to Action. Basically, one of the 5 points call to action says that health information system should be interoperable and that national government should find ways to make interoperability happen in their country. And the positioning of AHIN was that the creation of an interoperability lab uh, in the region and in each country would be the ideal environment for creating capacities for interoperability. So the Standards and Interoperability Lab Asia initially is funded by the Asian Development Bank, but also with resources coming from the University of the Philippines, Manila, specifically the space and our office logistics such as internet connection and some desktops. Next slide, please. Our administrative assistant, by the way, support is provided by Ms. Chelis Orhalo, who is also our GoToWebinar moderator. So why are we talking about data use and reciprocal support agreements? I think the reason is that there's already a lot of health information technology applications running around right now in our work environments, whether you're in the hospital, a clinic, a pharmacy, or a blood bank. To some degree, there are now some automation or digitalization that's happening in your work environment. And that's generating a lot of data in your facility. But due to lack of agreements and institutional arrangements between facilities, most of these data are siloed or non-standardized and therefore have limited value for public health. But as a matter of fact, if only there was a mechanism to consolidate the data coming from these different facilities, it is in fact a very powerful tool for public health. So the Sequoia project created the Data Use and Reciprocal Support Agreement, or the DURSA. The DURSA is a way for participating facilities or organizations to agree on how they will use the data and how they will support each other reciprocally. It is a policy document used in the United States by participants of the Sequoia project that allows them to exchange data based on specific purposes within the legal framework of their country and within what their own organization is capable of accepting. The DURSA was a suggestion of Dr. Paul Biondich, who is one of the founders of OpenMRS and OpenHIE at the AHIN 5th General Meeting last March 2017 in Myanmar. So this was a suggestion from Paul Biondich when we shared with him the problem of people and organizations not willing to share information with each other or data with each other, even if there was already a technology solution for interoperability. Next slide. So you can say that DURSA is a business approach to the interoperability problem. If you remember the talk of Dr. Butchai on interoperability, there are many layers required in interoperability for interoperability to happen. And if one layer is not functioning very well, then it doesn't matter whether your other layers are working. If one layer is not working, you are not going to achieve your interoperability. So you have your syntax interoperability, semantic interoperability, then you have your business interoperability. And I will not dare repeat the lecture of Dr. Puchay. I will try to find those slides and share them with you later. But right now you can get your copy of the DURSA by typing this in your browser, and you will be able to get the full text of the DURSA, and you can read through it and understand it. Next slide. So the parts of the DURSA, there's an overview and frequently asked questions at the beginning, and then some preambular statements like the premise of the document, and then it goes down to very, very detailed specifics. Next slide, please. So for the overview and the FAQs, it's basically just a set of paragraphs answering the following questions. What is a DURSA? Why do we need a DURSA? Does a DURSA evolve over time? And can a DURSA be used for other purposes? So it's a very interesting, easy read. I suggest that you read through this very well. It's an easy read. You can understand why a DURSA will have a place in your respective work environments. Next slide, please. And then the preambular, it might scare some of you because it looks like a full contract. It says the restatement of the data use and reciprocal support agreement is made and entered into by and between the undersigned, hereinafter referred to individually as participant and collectively as participants as of the effective date. Witnesses, whereas the participants who previously have executed the data use, etc., etc. So these are the Latin parts of this agreement. It just says why people are signing this document. So the real meat follows in the next section. Next slide, please. And here is where it becomes very difficult. Okay, so the United States version of the DURSA, they list they first start with the definitions, and then they follow it with applicable laws. So this is where things start to bifurcate for people or members of AHIN, because the applicable laws in the United States will not apply in our countries. We might have similar laws, but we cannot cite in a DURSA, let's say a Philippine DURSA cannot cite an American law because there is no jurisprudence for American law to prevail in Philippine soil. What we need to do is to look at all of these applicable laws in the US and see if we have corresponding Philippine laws for that. For example, in the States, they have the Health Information Portability Accountability Act, or the HIPAA. In the Philippines, we don't have HIPAA. We have the Data Privacy Act of 2012, which is patterned more after the Data Protection Directive of the United Kingdom. Nevertheless, the Data Privacy Act of 2012 of the Philippines will then suffice as a corresponding law to the HIPAA, which is mentioned in the DURSA. So the Philippine DURSA, for example, will not mention HIPAA anymore, but will have to cite the Data Privacy Act of 2012. So you understand what I'm trying to say is that you have to review all of these applicable laws in the United States version of the DURSA and try to find the analog or the counterpart law for your country. Next is the authorization. This is the statement of the DURSA basically saying why there is an authority for people to undertake this DURSA. So it could actually say that the Ministry of Health is undertaking this agreement with other agencies for the following reason. And the Ministry of Health is authorized by law, by the Constitution of the Philippines or by the Constitution of the United States to undertake this. Then it defines breach, which will mean the unauthorized acquisition, access, disclosure, or use of message content while transacting such message content pursuant to this agreement. So breach in this case of the DURSA is very, very limited to that breach that happens during the transacting or the exchange of the data. It does not include the breach that will happen once the data lands in the other system. There is a breach that happens upon acceptance of that second system. So I hope that's very clear. The breach that is specified in the DURSA is the breach that will happen during the transaction or the exchange of data between two systems. Once the data is received by a system and there is a breach that happens in that system, that is not included as a breach in the DORSA. Then it describes a business associate, which uses the business associate definition of a HIPAA, which is essentially somebody that manages or handles protected health information. Then it defines common participant resources, which means software, utilities, and automated tools made available for use in connection with the transaction of message content pursuant to this agreement. So this would now be the common participant resources would be all the technologies and standards and data that were used during the transaction between two participants. Then they define confidential participant information, which for the purpose of the agreement shall mean proprietary or confidential materials or information that is shared by another party to the other. Then they define the disclosure, which is a participant that discloses designs, drawings, procedures, trade secrets, processes, specifications, source code, system architecture, security measures, research and development, including but not limited to research protocols, findings, password and identifiers, new products, and marketing plans. So maybe you're asking me where I'm reading all of this. It's actually in the Sequoia project website. Next slide, please. After the definitions, then it would now be followed by the incorporation of recitals. The incorporation of the recitals is basically just a simple statement that the recitals set forth above are hereby incorporated into this agreement in their entirety and shall be given full force and effect as if set forth in the body of this agreement. The third part is the purpose of the DORSA. Again, the participants in the Philippines, for example, or in another country might want to review the purpose of the DORSA because it might be different between countries. A very important component of the DORSA specifics is the coordinating committee. So the coordinating committee specifies the formation of the coordinating committee. It specifies the composition, the granting of authority, and it says that in no case shall a participant be required to disclose protected health information to the coordinating committee in violation of applicable law. The fifth is use of message content. What is the participants are required to specify how they will plan to use a message content, whether it is a laboratory test or a prescription or a diagnosis or a procedure. All of these will have to be specified based on section number 5 of the specifics. Number 6 specifies the system access policies, such as autonomy principle, where each participant is basically in charge of their own access policies, and identification and authentication. Number 7 is enterprise security. Number 8, equipment and software. 9 is auditing, and 10 is performance and service specifications. Next slide, please. Then it is followed by operating policies and procedures, expectations of participants, specific duties of a participant when submitting a message, privacy and security, representations and warranties, confidential participant information, disclaimers, liability, term suspension and termination, cooperation, dispute resolution, notices, and miscellaneous or general items. So I encourage the participants to download the DURSA and read it at your own free time. It might scare you because it looks like a legal document because it is, but don't be afraid. If it is legalese, just skip that section and highlight the sections that are familiar to you. The reason is the parts that are familiar to you are probably the parts that you will need to modify for your own specific use case. Whereas the parts that are legalese or looks like legal to you are the things that will be looked at by your lawyers, and they will be the ones in charge of changing those legal aspects. So don't be worried if there are parts of the document that are legalistic. Leave that to the lawyers. But please be concerned about the things that you understand in the document, because if you understand it, then that means that you either accept it or you don't accept it, and therefore you might want to replace those items. Next slide, please. So my final slide is basically what next for us. I already said I recommend that you read the DURSA. Then I think the DURSA will become more practical and more understandable if there are at least two participants who are willing to exchange data with each other and provide reciprocal support to each other. So if you're interested, try to identify one more application or EMR that's willing to participate with you, and together you modify the DURSA according to your mutual uh, specifications. Make sure to watch out for your applicable local laws and regulations as you modify it. Then implement the DURSA, and then as you are implementing and you are going to encounter hitches or problems, together try to revise your DURSA as needed. And then once you have done that and you are successful, Party A and Party B are successful with their DURSA, I strongly encourage Party A and Party B to invite third party, Party C, Party D, and Party E towards the DURSA. And together, you are growing your coordinating committee and expanding your data sharing capability within your own country. And my last slide is very important. Please consult a lawyer. I think every party will necessarily need to have a lawyer, and then let the lawyers take care of the legal part of the document, but let the e-health advocates take care of the e-health part of the DORSA document. And that is my last slide, and I'll be happy to answer your questions. Let me see the questions. Okay, there are no questions. So this is the chance to ask your questions. Please just click on the question button on the top and type your question, and I will try to answer them online. So what are the plans here for the Philippines? We plan to review the DURSA together with the Department of Health or our Ministry of Health, because right now the RX box telemedicine device of the University of the Philippines is already interoperating with the iClinic electronic medical record of the Department of Health. And we want to have a DURSA to provide mutual support to the box and to the DOH-EMR. So that's the next step for the Philippines. I'll be happy to learn if there are other countries who are going to start using the DURSA in their own respective environments. Please inform me or Charis, and we will try to create subgroup inside AIN, DURSA AIN for those countries that are also adopting some type of DURSA. I think at some point our DURSA will become different from each other because our applicable laws are different. So the DURSA for the Philippines will not probably work in Malaysia or Thailand. But at the same time, it would be good to have a discussion group amongst ourselves on what made the DURSA work for you or what made the DURSA very difficult for you. That will help us refine and learn from each other, which is the point of AHIN. Charisse, I don't think there are questions. Maybe we can give them.
Dr. Alvin, there is one question. It reads, we have to collaborate with all the stakeholders of the particular data when formulating DORSA? Or is it just following the standard format? And what collaborating would be troublesome?
I think DORSA will only succeed if the participants are willing to exchange information. So if one participant is not willing to share information, I don't think that participant or that application will even read through a DORSA. So the first thing to do is first read the DORSA for yourself, because the premise here is that the person reading the DORSA will find it useful and interesting. And therefore, if you are an electronic medical record developer, or you are a facility and you are participant number one, and you like a DORSA, then the next step is looking for a second party. Somebody that you think has data that will be useful for you, but that second party will probably not be willing to share the data with you just like that, just because you request it. The second party will only share data with you for as long as there are specific agreements that explicitly specify the reason, the purpose, and the messages that are involved in the sharing of the data. So you have to first accept the DORSA for yourself, and then identify a second party that you think will be useful for you and will also find benefit in getting data from your own electronic medical record. So I think that's very, very crucial for a DORSA activity to succeed. We cannot. Another approach is have a DORSA as a matter of law in a country. That might be another approach, but I think that's going to be very, very difficult because there are so many people and so many participants, so many electronic medical records, and everyone has different views of what is shareable and what is not shareable. So by opening up a DORSA to as big audience as possible, opens yourself to a very complex process. But opening your DORSA to a second party might be an easier exercise because you're talking to the second party. Then once you're successful with the second party, then you start inviting together party A and party B. Together you can invite party C. And therefore party C will find it more exciting and more interesting because now he is connecting not just with one, but with two different systems. And so forth and so on until you get to the fourth party, the fifth party, and later on you will now have a bandwagon effect. To me, that would be a more strategic approach to a DORSA.
Thank you, Dr. Alvin. I think Dr. Punchay would like to speak on his microphone.
Can I unmute Dr. Punchay?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, a lot of my call.
Go ahead.
Hello. Thank you, Dr. Alvin, for presenting the DORSA to us, and I saw that a lot of AHIN member Dr. Sombat Mongkon is our graduate from the Mahidol University Health Informatics. and several people, and also the Alvin Philippine Health Informatics student. I found that the DOSA is very useful. It is my first time to see a very formal structure document that can be act like the format for country to look at the document and maybe use it as a guideline to write the document for agreement between two different parties to agree on sharing information. As Dr. Alvin said, I think the first thing is that the party have to be agree on sharing the mutual benefit from having the data to share, whatever for the exchange for the clinical care or for the analytics. So that is very useful. I can share the Thai experiences. 3 insurers in Thailand, the National Health Security Office, the General Comptroller that do the Civil Servant Medical Beneficiary Scheme, and the Social Security Office. Those 3 payers had been agreed to share their data for the analytics for many years. And the way that we do in Thailand is kind of the has a committee with the 3 party talk. The committee, that committee is forming follow the universal healthcare law in 2002, and there is no authorities of this committee. It's just the platform, the platform and the way that they coming to talk, and they agree on sharing data for the analytics of the insurance by drafting or composing the memorandum of understanding or the MOU. It's only 1 or 2 pages that they are agreed to do that. The party that gather all the data is the research agency that will keep will follow the the confidentiality aspect of the data. That is Thai experiences, and we also facing the challenge of the exchange data between hospital. Sometimes hospital don't want to exchange data, and they are afraid of the patient and hospital and doctor are afraid that the data will be breached. That's why they are reluctant, and we don't have a very the formal or some formal document to have the agree on that. So we are still struggling on this, and I think DOSA can be the way that DOSA structure might be benefit from Thai to me to look at and see that which part that we can use and which part that we can maybe consult with the lawyer, which is more formal and more structural than the MOU. So thank you, Dr. Alvin, for introducing to us. I will go and look at this document and maybe sharing with our colleagues in Thailand, and will share with our community how Thailand can be how DOSA can be useful for Thai health IT communities. Over.
Thank you, Dr. Bunchai. Dr. Bunchai, is the agreement between the three insurance agencies a policy document in English? Over.
It's in Thai. And the MOU still are not F, still FX, but it's not really. I mean, how can I say? Sometimes uh, agencies still don't want to share, so it have no authority or no legal to buy by with that document. So the DOSA, which is more structured and more formal, might be a better, might be another alternative, or maybe modified DOSA might be might be good. Like use some kind of the specification in that format. Might be give the agency, the partner agency, to be more comfortable to share the data. Sorry that the MOU that the three insurer agree to share is in Thai and it's only 2-3 pages. But I will look for it and maybe we'll share with you in English if I have a capacity to do so. Over.
Thank you, Dr. Bunchai. I was thinking that maybe one practical example of using the DURSA will be between the THIS and another country that has also a medicine terminology. Maybe we can ask THIS and Dr. Kadzir Health Informatics Center to sign a DURSA, and the data that will be exchanged is just drug information. Would you be willing to sign that? Over.
I think that is a very good idea because of I think both parties have created a lot of knowledge between the terminology. Malaysia also has a good create knowledge on about the terminology with associate with the cardiology specialist. Thailand also has a knowledge about the drug or the medicine terminology. So this might be a good start that we try to use the formal structure document and are more comfortable with the two. I think we can starting to discuss this more in next in the near future. Might be in the another in the GM. Or may faster than that. Over.
Yes, thank you. I was thinking that it's easier if there is no patient data being exchanged, just standardized drug terminology. I think it is easier to exchange data that way. So I'll try to put an activity maybe in the working council or maybe by email to Dr. Kadzir, Malaysia Health Information Center. Between the three of us, we can start a discussion over that. Chase, are there other questions? Over.
There are no more questions, Dr. Alvin.
Okay, so thank you very much for joining our call. We will email you the webinar slides and the links, and we will update you about any other developments regarding the DURSA in case you are still interested. If you want to learn more about Philippine DURSA, please email me directly. If you want to know more about the Malaysia-Thailand DURSA for medicine terminology, you can email me and Dr. Bunchai. But definitely, thank you very much for the interest on this topic, and I encourage you to read through the DURSA. It's very, very informative. It will, at the very minimum, you will learn new terms regarding e-health and how these terms are useful for our own national e-health development. So with that, I'd like to thank Dr. Bunchai, our chairman, for being here and giving some comments about the Thailand experience. Ms. Pearl Gasmen, who is our moderator, and slide operator. Next week, she will be our speaker, and of course, Miss Cherise Orhalo and everyone in the call. Of course, Dr. Sabat, thank you very much. We miss you already. Thank you very much, guys. Good night.